Have you ever stopped to think that something seemingly healthy could silently put your life at risk? Imagine going to bed feeling fine, at peace, and waking up unable to speak, with one side of your body paralyzed, or without balance. This is the devastating impact of a stroke, which often comes without pain, without warning, and without a chance to prepare. The scariest part is that many people believe they are taking care of their health when, in reality, they are creating the perfect environment for this invisible enemy to strike. We're not talking about obvious habits like smoking or overeating fast food. The danger, in this case, might be sitting right inside your fruit bowl, on your breakfast plate, or even in that dessert that seems harmless. Fruits, always seen as symbols of health and vitality, hide secrets that few people know. Some of them, especially when consumed in excess, at the wrong time, or in combination with certain medications, can turn into real traps for your heart, your brain, and your blood vessels. That's exactly why today we're going to dive deep into a warning that could save lives. Throughout this content, you'll discover that 9 common fruits, the ones you can easily find in any supermarket, may be quietly increasing your risk of developing serious problems like memory loss, invisible inflammation, unstable blood pressure, and even a stroke. With each revelation, you'll gain clarity on how seemingly innocent habits can have devastating consequences. And, at the same time, you'll learn simple strategies to keep eating safely and consciously. But before we go any further, I want you to make a commitment to your health. If you value this kind of information and want to keep receiving content that can protect your life and the lives of those you love, don't forget to support this work. Click like, subscribe to the channel, and activate the notification bell. These small actions make a huge difference, helping us bring this knowledge to more people who need to hear this warning. And also leave a simple comment. Just type the number 1 if this topic makes sense to you. If it doesn't, type 0. That way, we can always improve and bring even more useful content. Now, get ready, because what you're about to hear could change the way you see some lifelong eating habits. It's possible that, up until today, you believed you were doing the best for your body when, in reality, you were feeding silent risks. What seemed sweet, refreshing, and even medicinal may have effects no one ever told you about. That's exactly what we're going to uncover. Uncomfortable but necessary truths, so that each of your choices can be made with awareness and wisdom. And to begin, let's take a look at a fruit that seems harmless, popular all over the world, but hides an unexpected risk for anyone over 60. The banana. Behind its reputation as a healthy snack, there are details that must be understood, especially when the body no longer works the same way it did in youth. I'll show you why this habit, seemingly so common, may actually be more dangerous than you imagine. Among all fruits, few carry such a positive reputation as the banana. From an early age, we learn that it is a symbol of energy, practicality, and health. Soft, mildly sweet, easy to digest, and rich in potassium, it is recommended in diets, quick snacks, and even for those who exercise. But there is a little discussed reality. After the age of 60, the body no longer handles minerals in the same way it did in youth, and what was once a benefit can turn into a risk. Potassium is essential for the balance of the heart, muscles, and nerves. However, when ingested in excess, especially in bodies that function more slowly, it can accumulate in the bloodstream. This happens because, over time, the kidneys lose efficiency in filtering. For those already dealing with high blood pressure, diabetes, or taking common medications for blood pressure and heart health, this detail makes all the difference. What seemed like a simple banana for breakfast may, in fact, be creating the perfect conditions for a serious problem. Imagine what happens inside the body. Excess potassium alters the heart's rhythm, hardens the arteries, and encourages clot formation. If one of these clots reaches the brain, the result can be immediate. Difficulty speaking, loss of movement, or even a sudden unexplained fall. And all of this occurs without prior pain, without visible warning, only the accumulated effect of a daily habit. That's exactly what happened to Raymond, 66 years old, an active man careful with his diet. Every morning, he sliced 2 bananas over his oatmeal and took his blood pressure medication with a glass of juice. It seemed like a healthy ritual, but one day his wife found him collapsed, unable to move his left arm or articulate words. At the hospital, they discovered that his potassium was dangerously high, interfering with his heart and triggering a clot in his brain. He never imagined that 2 bananas could be part of the trigger for a stroke. This is where the danger lies. The information doesn't reach most people. It's not about eliminating this fruit entirely, but about understanding the right dose and timing. For those over 60, the ideal is to consume only half a banana per day, preferably in the morning and always accompanied by protein, such as natural yogurt or some nuts, to avoid sharp spikes. What should be avoided are concentrated versions, banana smoothies, cakes, sweets, or the habit of eating them before bedtime. At night, when circulation is already naturally slower and medications are still active, the risk multiplies. This example clearly shows how something considered healthy for an entire lifetime can change roles with aging. The body at 70 is not the same as it was at 30, and ignoring this truth can come at a high cost. That's why it's so important to reflect on every choice, every eating routine, and realize that even the most popular fruit can hide a silent trap. And if the banana already seems surprising, wait until you understand what happens with a small, sweet fruit that can trigger sugar spikes that inflame the blood vessels and silently increase the risk of stroke. Grapes. Grapes seem harmless. Small, sweet, refreshing, they are always present on family tables, in fruit salads, in quick snacks, and even offered as a symbol of health and well-being. Who could imagine that these tiny fruits, so practical and tasty, can become a silent threat for those over 60? What almost no one realizes is that each grape is a concentrated capsule of natural sugar. Eating one or two doesn't seem concerning, but when you fill a bowl and keep snacking without noticing, your body receives a heavy load of glucose and fructose within minutes. The problem is that, with aging, the insulin response slows down, blood vessels become more fragile, and circulation less efficient. What was easily metabolized decades ago now turns into overload. This excess sugar doesn't just strain the pancreas. It inflames the inner walls of the blood vessels, making them stiffer and narrower. This process creates invisible microlesions that serve as starting points for clots. In many cases, the person feels nothing. They go to bed peacefully and wake up with symptoms of a silent attack: blurred vision, slurred speech, or tingling on one side of the body. All because of a fruit that seemed natural and healthy. That's exactly what happened to Jeanette, 80 years old, who always prided herself on living simply and naturally. She didn't drink soda, didn't eat processed sweets, but had a daily habit: a generous plate of grapes in the late morning. It was her favorite ritual, until one day, while writing a birthday card, her hand shook, her vision blurred, and she couldn't finish the word. At the hospital, the diagnosis was a transient ischemic attack, a warning that a clot had temporarily blocked blood flow in her brain. Tests revealed frequent glucose spikes and signs of vascular inflammation, silently built up over years. What this case shows us is that even the most innocent foods can become dangerous when consumed without balance. For those over 60, eating grapes alone, in large quantities, and especially on an empty stomach, is a real risk. The ideal way is to consume them in small portions, accompanied by proteins or healthy fats, such as a few almonds or a piece of cheese, which helps reduce the impact of glucose in the blood. Never in excess, never as a meal substitute, and never as a nightly habit. This kind of simple adjustment can make the difference between keeping the body healthy or unknowingly creating a dangerous scenario for the heart and brain. The truth is that it's not enough to know what to eat, but also when and how to eat. It's this awareness that protects against the invisible damage of time. And if grapes already seem surprising, get ready to discover how a tropical fruit, so appreciated for its exotic flavor and its reputation for helping with digestion, can become a true nighttime risk for the brain: pineapple. There is something about pineapple that makes it irresistible. The sweet flavor mixed with refreshing acidity, the feeling of lightness after a meal, the idea that it helps with digestion. Many people, especially in later life, believe they are making the perfect choice by replacing high-calorie desserts with a few slices of this tropical fruit. But behind this seemingly smart choice lies a dangerous combination: excess sugar, high acidity, and enzymes that interfere with the blood. Pineapple contains an enzyme called bromelain, known for breaking down proteins and aiding digestion. In small amounts, it can even be beneficial. But when consumed frequently, especially at night and together with medications, it can alter blood clotting, leaving the body vulnerable to unexpected bleeding or clots. It's as if the body's natural balance is gently pushed out of order, an almost invisible detail, but with potentially serious consequences. In addition, pineapple is a fruit with a high glycemic index. This means its sugar enters the bloodstream quickly, sharply raising glucose and overloading the blood vessels. During the day, the body can burn part of this energy. But at night, when metabolism slows down and circulation becomes weaker, this extra sugar accumulates, irritating artery walls and increasing the risk of clot formation at the most vulnerable moment, during sleep. And there's another overlooked factor: acidity. Many people over 60 suffer from silent reflux, the kind that doesn't cause heartburn but affects the throat and breathing at night. Pineapple, being highly acidic, can worsen this reflux without the person realizing it. This microaspiration during sleep reduces oxygen supply to the brain, creates inflammation, and in some cases, sets the stage for a stroke upon waking. That's exactly what happened to Clara, 77. She believed she was doing the best for herself by replacing cakes and desserts with a few slices of pineapple after dinner. This ritual accompanied her for more than a year. Until one morning, she woke up confused, struggling to speak and walk. The diagnosis was a minor stroke. Tests showed elevated nighttime glucose, signs of reflux, and changes in clotting. None of these factors alone seemed severe, but together they created the perfect storm. The lesson is simple. It's not necessary to eliminate pineapple, but to rethink when and how to eat it. The ideal is to consume it in small amounts during the day, always alongside foods rich in protein or healthy fats. Avoid eating it at night, especially if you already take blood-affecting medications or suffer from reflux. As we age, details matter, and what once seemed like just a refreshing fruit can become an invisible trigger. And if pineapple has already shown how excess acidity and sugar can be dangerous, the next example is even more surprising. A fruit famous for its ability to hydrate but that, under certain conditions, can do the opposite and leave the brain vulnerable. We're talking about watermelon. Few fruits convey the feeling of freshness as much as watermelon. On hot days, it seems like the perfect choice. Light, sweet, full of water, able to quench thirst and hydrate the body. It's no wonder it has become so popular across cultures and generations. But the reality is that after the age of 60, this fruit can bring an unexpected effect. Instead of hydrating, it can dehydrate, and this silent shift increases the risk of serious problems in the brain. Watermelon is composed of about 90% water, but it also has diuretic properties. This means that when consumed, it stimulates the kidneys to produce more urine, which may not be an issue for younger people. However, for older adults who may already be taking diuretic medications for blood pressure or heart conditions, this combination creates a double effect: excessive fluid loss, leading to nighttime dehydration. And why is this so dangerous? Because when the body loses fluids, the blood becomes thicker. Imagine thin tubes trying to carry a liquid that no longer flows smoothly but instead moves like a dense syrup. This slower flow promotes clot formation, especially in arteries already stiffened by aging. At night, when circulation naturally slows and blood pressure drops, this silent condition can trigger a stroke. That's exactly what happened to Howard, 82. He always believed he was taking care of himself. He walked every day, avoided processed sweets, and made it a habit to eat 2 or 3 generous slices of watermelon after dinner. It seemed healthy. But Howard was also taking a heart medication that already had a diuretic effect. One morning, he woke up with extreme dizziness. When he tried to get up, he collapsed, unable to keep his balance. At the hospital, tests revealed dehydration, thickened blood, and a minor stroke caused by a clot formed during the night. The fruit he believed was hydrating him was, in fact, draining his body too much. This example shows how even something seemingly simple can turn into a risk, depending on age, the body, and medications. For those over 60, the ideal is to consume watermelon in small amounts and preferably during the day, when the body is active and able to compensate for fluid loss. Never in excess, and ideally accompanied by a pinch of natural salt or coconut water to balance electrolytes. It's important to understand that hydration isn't just about drinking fluids, but also about maintaining the balance between water and minerals. Watermelon, despite its refreshing appeal, can mislead that balance. It's precisely this illusion of safety that makes it dangerous. And if even watermelon, the symbol of hydration, can become a threat, imagine what happens with citrus fruits like oranges, which hide a chemical compound capable of directly interfering with the most common medications used by older adults. Orange has always been remembered as the fruit of vitality. A glass of juice at breakfast, a few fresh slices after lunch, or even the habit of giving this fruit to children and the elderly as a symbol of health. Indeed, it contains vitamin C and fibers that can be beneficial. But there's a lesser-known side. Citrus fruits, especially oranges, can dangerously interact with the most common medications among people over 60. What few people know is that oranges contain a substance called furanocoumarin. This compound directly interferes with the liver, which is responsible for metabolizing various drugs. When the liver cannot break down these medications at the right pace, they can accumulate in the body at toxic levels or, in other cases, lose their effectiveness altogether. This silent imbalance particularly affects medications for cholesterol, blood pressure, and blood clotting. The danger is that this interaction gives no warning. There are no immediate symptoms. The person believes they are taking care of their health, taking their medicine correctly and drinking orange juice every day, without realizing they are creating an unstable environment inside the body. Blood pressure that suddenly drops or spikes, unpredictable circulation, and a higher risk of clots reaching the brain. That's exactly what happened to Elmer, 79. He maintained an exemplary routine. He walked daily, followed his doctor's advice, and began every morning with a glass of fresh orange juice. This habit seemed harmless, even healthy. However, after a few weeks, Elmer began to experience mild dizziness. One day, he stood up from his chair and collapsed on the floor. At the hospital, tests showed that his body was overloaded with medications that should have been broken down by the liver but weren't. The result was a small stroke, caused by this silent interaction between juice and his medications. This case shows how even a fruit considered a symbol of health can become an invisible risk. For those over 60, it is crucial to understand that natural does not always mean safe. The recommendation is to consume oranges in moderation, avoid concentrated juices, and most importantly, consult your doctor before including large amounts of citrus in your routine, especially if you already take continuous medication. In some cases, opting for gentler alternatives like tangerines in small amounts or just a squeeze of lemon in water may be safer. What may seem like a small detail in your diet can actually be the very factor that destabilizes your entire system. The aging body no longer processes substances the way it once did, and every combination must be carefully considered. And if orange has already shown how a simple juice can alter the effect of medication, get ready to uncover the truth about another fruit often called the healthiest of all, the apple. It may be a symbol of vitality, but some varieties hide silent traps for the brain and blood vessels. An apple a day keeps the doctor away. This is one of the most repeated phrases when it comes to health. From childhood, we are taught to see the apple as the perfect food. Practical, tasty, packed with fiber, and a symbol of vitality. It's not unusual to see hospitals serving apples on trays or schools encouraging their daily consumption. But there's one detail almost nobody mentions. Not all apples are the same, and for those over 60, some can turn into invisible traps. The most popular varieties today, such as the extremely sweet red apples, were cultivated precisely to please the palate with their sugary flavor. This means that, despite their fiber content, they carry a high glycemic load. When eaten alone, especially on an empty stomach or at night, they release sugar quickly into the bloodstream. The result is a sudden spike in glucose followed by a sharp drop. This rise and fall doesn't just affect daily energy. It inflames blood vessels, alters blood pressure, and makes the blood more viscous. Over time, these repeated fluctuations create tiny lesions in the arteries, and it's exactly at these points that clots begin to form. For an aging body, with vessels already narrowed, just one of these episodes can be enough to trigger an unexpected stroke. That's what happened to Louise, 81. Active and disciplined, she walked every day and believed she was taking care of her health by replacing processed sweets with a large, sweet apple every afternoon. It seemed like the ideal choice. But over time, she began experiencing blurred vision and strange pressure in her head by the end of the day. Until one evening, at dinner, she suddenly lost the ability to articulate words. At the hospital, she was diagnosed with a small stroke caused precisely by glucose fluctuations and vascular inflammation. Her healthy routine had a silent flaw, the hidden sugar in a fruit that seemed harmless. This doesn't mean apples should be eliminated, but rather chosen wisely. For those over 60, less sweet varieties, like green apples, are much better options, as they have less impact on blood sugar and contain more protective compounds for the brain. In addition, eating apples alongside proteins or healthy fats, such as a bit of cheese or a handful of nuts, helps reduce the impact of sugar in the blood. What should be avoided is eating very sweet apples alone, in large quantities, or at night. The message is clear: even something we've long carried as a symbol of health must be reconsidered as we age. The body no longer responds the same way, and simple choices can mean the difference between stability and risk. And if even the apple can hide a silent trap, imagine a small, intensely colored fruit praised for reducing inflammation, yet one that contains compounds capable of thinning the blood too much. That's the case with cherries. Cherries captivate at first sight. Small, red, juicy, often described as a superfood by health magazines and recommended for people suffering from joint pain or inflammation. It's common to find people eating them as a dessert, in concentrated juices, or even in supplement capsules. But behind this innocent appearance lies a detail that can be dangerous for those over 60. The effect they have on the blood. Cherries are naturally rich in a substance called salicylate, which acts much like aspirin, helping to thin the blood. In small amounts, this can be beneficial. The problem arises when someone is already using medications that have the exact same effect: anticoagulants, daily aspirin, heart, or circulation drugs. In this scenario, cherries stop being allies and become a risk. The blood can become too thin, making clotting difficult when the body actually needs it. The result, in critical situations, can be internal bleeding or even a hemorrhagic stroke. And this danger usually sets in silently. The person feels nothing immediately. They continue believing they're strengthening their health, until one day, sudden symptoms appear: severe headaches, dizziness, nausea, or mental confusion. That's exactly what happened to Daniel, 84. He liked to end his dinner with a small plate of fresh cherries, believing he was helping his joints. For weeks, he noticed nothing wrong. But one morning, he woke up disoriented, with intense nausea and difficulty balancing. At the hospital, doctors discovered a brain bleed, caused by excessive blood thinning. The combination of his daily medication with frequent cherry consumption had gone beyond the safe limit. This example shows that even something natural, when combined with aging and the use of medications, can trigger dangerous effects. For those over 60 who use anticoagulants or aspirin, the recommendation is clear: cherries only in small amounts, never in concentrated juices or supplements, and always under professional guidance. If there's no use of blood-thinning medications, occasional consumption can be safe, but moderation is still necessary. It's essential to understand that the aging body has a smaller margin for error. What could be tolerated in youth may become risky in later years. That's why conscious choices are the key to avoiding unpleasant surprises. And if even delicate cherries can hide such a serious risk, imagine a seemingly harmless fruit, often served in hospitals, juices, and desserts, that carries pesticides, toxins, and even compounds capable of inflaming the joints: strawberries. Few fruits inspire as much fascination as the strawberry. Red, shiny, heart-shaped, it seems like the perfect symbol of health, romance, and freshness. It's a constant presence in desserts, juices, smoothies, and even in diets that promise healthy weight loss. Many believe they're making the best choice by including strawberries in their daily routine. But behind this delicate appearance lies a silent risk that needs to be understood. The first problem is how strawberries are grown. Year after year, this fruit tops the list of foods most contaminated by pesticides. Even after washing, many of these residues remain. For younger people, the body can still eliminate part of these toxins. But for those over 60, with slower metabolism and an overworked liver, these chemicals accumulate and can affect the most sensitive system of all: the brain. Pesticides found in conventional strawberries are linked to increased inflammation, oxidative stress, and even the weakening of blood vessel walls. The second issue is that strawberries contain purines, substances that turn into uric acid in the body. For older adults with a history of gout, kidney problems, or joint inflammation, excess strawberries can worsen the condition, causing pain, stiffness, and vascular inflammation. This combination creates a silent environment where clots can form without warning, increasing the risk of a stroke. That's exactly what happened to Elaine, 80 years old. Passionate about strawberries since youth, she always made sure to have them at home. She kept them in the freezer to prepare smoothies and ate a handful daily after dinner. Over time, she began to feel joint pain and morning dizziness. Until one morning, she woke up unable to move her right hand and struggled to speak. The diagnosis was a mild ischemic stroke. Tests revealed high uric acid levels and signs of oxidative stress. Evidence that her frequent consumption of strawberries, loaded with pesticides, had contributed to weakening her blood vessels. The lesson is clear. The danger isn't in eating strawberries occasionally, but in making them a daily habit without paying attention to their source and preparation. Always choose organic, wash them carefully, and avoid large quantities. If there's a history of gout, kidney issues, or use of circulation-related medications, caution should be doubled. In maturity, the body can no longer handle excess the same way it once did. What seemed light and healthy can turn into a trigger for inflammation and, in extreme cases, a threat to independence. And if strawberries already surprise with this hidden side, the next example is even more striking. A sweet, aromatic tropical fruit, considered an exotic delight, but one that can disrupt glucose, interfere with medications, and increase the risk of a silent stroke. We're talking about mango. Few fruits are as cherished for their flavor as mango. Soft, sweet, and aromatic, it's seen as a kind of natural reward, a tropical gift full of energy. It appears in salads, juices, desserts, and even in dried versions, marketed as a healthy option. But despite its positive reputation, mango hides two dangers that can be especially serious for those over 60. Excessive sugar and interference with medications. A single cup of ripe mango can contain more than 40 grams of sugar, more than many processed sweets. The problem is that this sugar is absorbed extremely quickly, raising blood glucose within minutes. For a younger body, this spike can be managed. But in an aging body, which may already struggle with insulin resistance, fragile blood vessels, and a slower metabolism, this explosion of glucose triggers inflammation, hardens the arteries, and favors the formation of microclots. In addition, mango contains compounds that interfere with the liver's work, slowing the metabolism of certain medications. This means that drugs for blood pressure, cholesterol, or the heart may remain in the body longer than expected, building up until they reach dangerous levels. This silent interaction can cause sudden drops in blood pressure, arrhythmias, or further increase the risk of a stroke. That's exactly what happened to William, 83. After retiring, he adopted the habit of replacing cookies and sweets with slices of dried mango, believing he was making a healthier choice. Within a few weeks, he began experiencing dizziness when getting up in the morning. Until one day, he collapsed as soon as he got out of bed, his face slightly paralyzed. At the hospital, doctors found he had suffered an ischemic stroke. His tests showed elevated glucose and abnormal levels of medications accumulated in his body, a direct consequence of mango's interference with liver metabolism. This example shows that the danger is not only in the sugar, but also in how this fruit disrupts the delicate machinery of the aging body. For those over 60, the recommendation is clear. If you consume mango, keep it in small portions, during the day, and always accompanied by protein or healthy fats to reduce the glycemic impact. Avoid dried versions, which concentrate even more sugar, and never consume it before bedtime. The body needs stability at night, not spikes and crashes that weaken it. Mango may be enjoyable, but it must be treated with caution. And after reviewing these fruits that carry hidden risks, it's only natural to ask, what can actually be eaten safely? The good news is that there are indeed fruits capable of protecting the brain, strengthening blood vessels, and providing energy in a balanced way. After hearing about so many hidden risks, it's natural to wonder, after all, what can still be eaten safely? The good news is that not all fruits pose a danger. On the contrary, some of them, when chosen and consumed correctly, can become powerful allies in protecting the brain, supporting blood circulation, and maintaining energy after the age of 60. The first category is berries, such as blueberries, raspberries, and blackberries. Small in size but rich in antioxidants, they help fight inflammation that weakens blood vessels. Unlike other sweet fruits, they don't cause blood sugar spikes, making them safe even for those who already deal with insulin resistance. Eaten in the morning, paired with natural yogurt or a handful of nuts, they work as a gentle fuel that protects the brain without overloading the body. Another smart choice is green apples, especially the more tart varieties. They contain less sugar than common red apples and provide flavonoids that strengthen blood vessel health. When consumed alongside a source of protein or healthy fat, such as almond butter or light cheese, they deliver stable energy and reduce the risk of sudden glucose drops. Avocados, often forgotten as a fruit, also make the list. Their richness in healthy fats helps keep blood pressure balanced and nourishes the nerves, something essential to prevent failures in brain communication. Since they have a low glycemic impact, they can be included in main meals without destabilizing the body. Another group worth highlighting is mild citrus fruits, such as lemon and lime. Unlike excessive orange consumption, they don't significantly interfere with medications and can actually aid digestion and hydration when used in small amounts mixed with water. They are subtle but valuable allies. Finally, pomegranate can be included with caution. Its juice is rich in powerful antioxidants, but it should always be diluted and consumed in small amounts, never excessively. When used in moderation, it strengthens circulation without overloading the body. The secret is not just in which fruits to choose, but also in how and when to eat them. Always during the day, never on an empty stomach, and preferably alongside foods that slow down sugar absorption. At night, avoid sweet or acidic fruits, since that's when the body most needs stability. These options show that it's not necessary to live in fear of fruit. It's possible to find balance and even turn certain habits into powerful allies for brain health. The difference lies in being aware of what the aging body truly needs and respecting its limits. And now, to close, it's important to reflect on everything that has been said. Because in the end, it's not just about fruit, but about how each food choice can determine not only the length of life but, more importantly, the quality of life after 60. After analyzing every detail, it becomes clear that aging does not mean weakness, but rather change. The body that has endured so much, that has lived through decades of experiences, now demands more care, more attention, and more respect. What worked well at 30 or 40 no longer has the same effect at 60, 70, or 80. Ignoring this reality only opens the door for silent risks to take hold. The central point is understanding that even fruits, universal symbols of health, can turn into traps when consumed in excess, at the wrong time, or in combination with medications. A banana at the wrong moment, a bowl of grapes in excess, pineapple at night, daily orange juice, overly sweet apples, constant cherries, pesticide-laden strawberries, or generous portions of mango. None of these are dangerous simply by existing, but by the context in which they are consumed by those whose bodies have become more delicate with age. That is why awareness is the greatest ally. Knowing how to choose, balance, and adapt each habit is the key to continuing to enjoy life with vitality. Small changes make a big difference. Eating less sweet fruits always paired with protein, avoiding excess at night, choosing organic whenever possible. Speaking with your doctor about interactions with medications. These are simple actions that can mean more years of independence, clarity, and quality of life. And most importantly, this is not about fear. It is about freedom. It is about understanding that you have the power to decide what goes on your plate and, consequently, how your tomorrow will look. By adopting conscious choices, you not only prevent disease but ensure that your mind and body remain strong enough to continue living the life you deserve, without being caught off guard by something that could have been avoided. Now I want to hear from you. Which of these insights caught your attention the most? What change do you plan to apply starting today? Share in the comments. Your experience can inspire others who are also seeking to live with more health and safety. And don't forget, like this video, share it with those you love, and subscribe to the channel to keep receiving content that can truly make a difference in your life. Each action you take helps spread this message and protect more people. Always remember, what you put on your plate is not just food. It is destiny, it is choice, it is future. Take care of your body, nourish your mind, and live consciously. Because your health is your most precious asset, and it deserves the same attention you've dedicated to everything important throughout your life.